All righty. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday night live stream from Get Fit and Be Lean. I'm Dr. Frank Cadle with the Get Fit and Be Lean program that I use to lose over 20% of my body weight in 2021. I lost more than 5 inches off my waist. I lowered my cholesterol by more than 20 points. I lowered my systolic blood pressure by more than 20 millimeters of mercury. And I did all of this without any medications and their risk of side effects. In fact, I was able to get off of my reflux heartburn medication. I did it without any surgery and its risk of complications even years afterwards. I was able to stop snoring and start pursuing some of the activities that I'd really given up when I was too fat to even tie my own shoelaces without getting short of breath. So before we get into it this week, I really want to thank all of my new subscribers on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining. All of my new followers on my Instagram account. It's really great to have everybody here, and I really appreciate your input, and we'll try to respond to any questions or comments you make. This is really a totally new experience for me over the last year and a half or 2 years. I've not really done this kind of broadcasting on social networking before. I was really surprised at how fast my account took off on TikTok. And unfortunately, I really can't post on TikTok right now due to my feelings about their misinformation relationship with the Ukraine-Russian war. But despite the fact that I have 70,000 followers over there, I wasn't really getting that many more views on my videos than I'm getting now through Instagram and through YouTube. Although I'm really hoping to get some more interaction and engagement on my Twitter feed. I try to post the articles that I talk about every week and that I post videos on through the week. So if you want links to those articles, if you want to see the information firsthand, you can do that there. And hopefully retweet those or engage in some ways to kind of boost the profile so I can carry the message of get fit and be lean. So I did all of this without any membership, any subscription, any enrollment. I didn't purchase any equipment. I chose calisthenics because you can do them anywhere and they can be adjusted to the difficulty of your own capabilities. I really don't try to demonize any kind of food. I like food and I eat a lot of food because I enjoy it, but also because I need it. I do have some very kind of practical things that I try to follow as I've pursued this program. It's a portion control program. I really try to focus on my portion control, and I've done a number of videos on that. And the 2 veggie goal is really about the most stringent thing that I would say I present, and that's 2 servings of raw or steamed vegetables at lunch and 2 servings at dinner. It's not that hard to achieve. You can look at some of my older videos and see how I recommend you do that. But after thanking all of my new YouTube channel subscribers in particular, because I don't think those are people that I even know, but all of my Instagram followers and the people who make comments, I really want to thank you for your encouragement and support. And due to that, I'm going to keep trying to post these videos. This week, we're talking about the body mass index. The body mass index, I want you to understand, is just a number. It's a number that combines your height and your weight, and that's all, okay? But what we have found is that for most people, the body mass index is an excellent determinant of high body fat obesity, in that if your body mass index is over 30, there's about a 95% chance if you're a male and a 99% chance if you're a female that is diagnostic for high body fat obesity. Why is this so important? Obesity is related to a lot of diseases, and particularly most recently, research that has looked at morbidity and mortality of COVID-19, that is, people who get sick enough to be hospitalized or even die from COVID-19, there is a linear relationship with BMI. You eliminate all the other confounding factors, and people that have a higher BMI are more likely to be hospitalized or die if they contract COVID-19. And if you look at BMI, really interesting study that I found, I posted on my Twitter account. If you have a healthcare provider that has a high BMI, their likelihood of reporting success to you, to a third party, of addressing obesity in their patients goes down. Now, this is the only disease that I know of like this. I haven't really read any kind of research about any other measurement that if you apply it to the healthcare providers, non-physician healthcare providers in this study, then you find that how they approach the disease is different, and they are less optimistic about their ability to successfully address the disease. That's really important. That's really important. And make no doubt about it, okay, despite the fat and fit movement, it doesn't matter if people want to villainize BMI. If you are unhappy with the idea of BMI and the way the tables were produced, and you want to go back at the history and look at all of the implications related to how they apply to different ethnic groups, that's fine. Measure your waist, measure your height. Your height should be twice your weight, your waist circumference, okay? I don't usually use that number because in the surgical literature, BMI is used, and it is very clearly linked with a number of postoperative complications and increased blood loss and all kinds of problems that even if you control for all the other factors, just having a high BMI puts you at risk. Now, I didn't start this process of Get Fit and Be Lean because I was worried about what my BMI was or was going to be, okay? I didn't like the way I look. I didn't like the way I felt. That's why I did what I did. Taking my weight on a weekly basis was a really easy way to track the success. Although with the calisthenics, it's also possible just to look at your physicality and how you're able to work out, what kind of workout you can do, how many repetitions, how many different exercises, how often you can do it. All of these things are indicative of the effectiveness of the calisthenic program. But BMI is a very powerful tool. I would recommend that you don't get a card and tell your doctor not to check your weight. This is like you drive into the garage and you say, yeah, there's a problem with my exhaust. And the guy gets under the car and he sees that you have no brakes. And you want him to say, oh, your exhaust is fixed without mentioning the brakes. And that's just not reasonable. And actually, garages won't do that. A garage will tell you, look, it's too much of a liability for us not to address the fact that you have no tread on your tires. And this is the kind of thing that you're saying to a physician when you go in with a card that says, don't check my weight because I already know I'm overweight. The reality is that telling your doctor not to address a major health problem is just tying their hands behind their back. And I'm really disappointed that as we've seen obesity climb among kids, and with the COVID-19 shutdown, you see another marked spike in obesity among Americans, and we know that it's causing problems. And listen, I'll talk to you selfishly as a surgeon. Trying to do surgery through an extra inch, 2 inches, 5 inches of adipose tissue is more challenging, okay? For the EMTs, trying to move people that are 280, 300 pounds as opposed to somebody that's 160 pounds, it's just easier. It puts a stress on the whole system, and it puts a stress on everybody that works in the system. And these are people that you are going to depend upon when you are ill. So rather than demonize the BMI, if you don't want to do the BMI, fine. Do the height to weight ratio. Make sure that it's at least twice. The height to waist size ratio, the height to waist circumference. If you look at that ratio and you can make sure that your height is double your waist circumference, you can achieve almost the same results as looking at a BMI. BMI is just easier. I mean, anybody could step on a set of scales. It's kind of hard to figure out where to put the tape. It can be a little awkward if you're talking about a stranger that just met you, wrapping their arms around your waist to measure your waist circumference. A lot easier, just step on scales, take the hit, okay? You may not like what the numbers say, but it is just a number. The number is what the number is, whether you want to talk about it or not. And I want to make it clear that success in this area does not come from self-loathing. You're not going to change your body mass index because you're disgusted. Okay, it's got to be a question of self-love, because you're trying to do the thing for you that the people who love you, your best friend, would do for you if they could, but they might not even be able to do it for themselves. However, one of the reasons that I put this out here, one of the reasons that I videotaped myself every time I was working out, every meal I ate for more than a year, and put it on TikTok, is because I know that it can be done. I know that it is possible. It is not some kind of unicorn. It is not impossible, even with thermogenic adaptation and the changes that occur that mean that you need fewer calories than you did when you first started. Even with the prevalence and availability of high calorie density foods at every turn, you don't even have to go to the supermarket. It's everywhere. You can make this change. You can make these simple changes. Okay, portion control. And if you make these changes, what's going to happen is, over time, you're going to see it impact all these different areas of your life. I really didn't expect that I would be able to stop snoring. I wasn't really thinking all that much about getting back into the motorcycle leathers that I paid hundreds of dollars for years ago. But by being able to do all those things, it's a positive affirmation for me, and it allows me to help continue pursuing it. Just like when people are subscribing to my channel, when people are logging on to my Instagram, viewing my videos, making comments, when people, rarely, but when people do read my tweets or retweet my tweets on Twitter, all of these things are positive affirmations for me to keep trying to get this information out, for keep trying to build a program that anyone can do, that doesn't require you to eliminate meats or to give up on cheese or to get rid of all the noodles and pasta and rice in your house. I don't think those are sustainable approaches for people, and the literature bears that out, because all of these different diets, the carnivore, the keto, the Zoom now is really going down the tubes. They were like supposedly the next best thing since sliced bread, only you can't have bread. That's just not turning out to be the case. None of their literature is more than a year or two old, and their company's already going bankrupt and cutting off their little nutritional coaches and all of these people with dubious credentials. It's a snake pit out there. It's just infested with all kinds of snake oil salesmen and con artists who are telling you they've got the next best thing. And it's really disappointing to see people being preyed on. And one thing that they do very routinely is they find the forefront of actual medicine research, biochemical papers, and then they try and take that and say, oh, this is it, this is the answer, this is the end all and be all. And anybody who knows anything about science knows that that doesn't happen very often. That's really not the approach that we use that gets the effect that increased lifespan in the US after year for decades. But now we see that it's going back down, and there are a number of different reasons for that. But one reason is because of the toll of obesity and sedentary lifestyles and what that does to our lifespans and our ability to live full and happy, productive, enjoyable lives that help us avoid those other detriments to our lifespan. So I really want to thank all of the people who made comments and people who have been checking out the videos. I really hope you guys will go over to my Twitter account, because that's where I post the links to these articles that I refer to. I'm not really just making this stuff up. It's all based on real science that I've evaluated after years of being a physician and being trained as a biochemist. I have a pretty good eye for research and what's quality and what's not. So I try to really focus on that when I post it on my Twitter account. And I'm going to come on back next week. I'll be posting in between on dietary fiber. I've had a question about that. I covered macros a couple of weeks ago. You may remember. You can go back and look at my live video on that. One of the fiber is one of the macros that we look at with carbohydrates and protein and fat. And it's vitally important, but it doesn't necessarily get the same amount of attention in some of the commercial approaches to weight loss because it doesn't tend to be terribly calorie dense. So it's easier to show somebody in 2 weeks, the 10 pounds in 2 weeks or some sort of fantasy goal that they set if you eliminate the highest density of calories with cholesterol. I mean, with dietary starches and carbohydrates, it's easy to show an effect in the short term, but what the research is clear about is really tough to give up carbohydrates for good because they're tasty and they're a part of so many cultures. I mean, you're going to tell the whole East, you're going to get rid of, you're going to tell all the Italians, you're not going to have noodles, you're not going to have bread, and the French, I mean, it's just not, you're not going to eliminate tortillas. Okay. So how do we incorporate those? How do we ensure that we are limiting those to a single serving? That's the focus of the Get Fit and Be Lean program, because I don't think telling people don't eat what you used to eat is very beneficial. But I do think that dietary fiber is of tremendous benefit. And that's why I'm happy to respond to this question with a whole week's set of videos. And my next live at 7:30 next Sunday Pacific Daylight Savings Time. And if you have any questions in between then, I'll be posting videos on both Instagram and YouTube, as well as continuing to tweet out the articles that I read. And I read these based on questions that I get. And I've learned a lot during this process, just in the last year and a half, regardless of how much I knew already coming into it, that made it possible for me to engage in it successfully. So thank you very much. I hope some folks attended. Thank you, Jane Bedow. Appreciate you coming by. And thanks everybody who's going to look at this later, although I might not know unless you make a comment. But feel free to drop a comment, drop a question, put up one of those tag videos, whatever you want to do. And you can always go over to, if you're on TikTok, you can look at all my old videos. I got a year and a half of videos over there that you can still scroll through and check out. And I appreciate everybody joining. Thank you so much.